Welcome to Mastering the Game.
I'm Seth.
I'm Shane, and today we're talking about creating compelling villains.
Yes, compelling villains. Because good villains are compelling villains.
Yes.
I think, anyway.
I think, yeah, if your villain's not compelling, what are you doing? Well, I guess there is, just to start on the opposite of my beliefs.
Excellent. Let's do it.
You know, it's fascinating because, like, as I mentioned many times, my introduction to everything D&D, well, first it was Dragon Strike.
Kill them all!
Right, okay.
And then almost immediately after it was R.A. Salvatore, right? And he, I don't know how long ago, a while back, tweeted something to the effect of, your villains, like, villains are villains and they should be pure evil so that the heroes can smite them, or whatever. It was better worded than that because he's a writer. But it was effectively that sentiment. And I was kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
Because his books all have great villains who are super complex.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. So, like, maybe I just didn't understand the point of his tweet.
Interesting.
But it, maybe the tweet did not sum up what his exact feelings on the thing were. But there is a place for snarling, mustache twisting villain, especially in D&D, especially in something like AL or something where it's a less bespoke scenario, I guess, or a place where you maybe don't know people as well.
Right.
So you're just trying to give them clear signposts so that they can, like, thwart evil and live out their heroic fantasy.
Yeah.
Outside of that, fuck all that.
Yeah, right? It is interesting because I think that, like, and, you know, like, it depends on the villain, right? Like, I think it depends on the villain. I think that, but one thing, like, I always try to remember, right, is that, like, no matter how villainous something is, they still are. Well, when I say it depends on the villain, like, there are, you know, in D&D we have the benefit of, like, monsters. Right? And I'm like, there are some, like, Raheem Sa does not have redeemable qualities.
No.
You know what I mean? It is an engine of destruction, and it must be stopped, right?
It is evil gravity.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It is inevitable, right? And there's like an element of that is really, you know, that of course is salient and true, right? Like in Dungeons and Dragons, you know, like red dragons are mean and nasty, and but like you can make an interesting red dragon. You know,
maybe a sexy one.
Yeah, she is quite statuesque. But, like, you have the benefit of, like, being able to see, you know, like, occasionally you can, right? Like, because I think a good D&D campaign has, you know, por qué no los dos, right? Like, sometimes there's just stuff that, like, yep, smoke them. You know what I mean? Murderize them. Like, these things are not good. You know, undead are great for that, right? Like, they are anathema to life. They hate you with a burning passion. There's nothing inside of them.
They're a truly faceless entity.
Yeah, right? Like,
yeah.
A shadow wants to suck the life out of you and watch you squirm while it happens.
Yeah.
Like, they're, you know, the right, like, you have certain things that are just evil by nature, and that is their nature, and that's great.
Demons and devils to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Demons especially,
right? Like, devils.
They've even got the built-in caveat of, like, they can't really die, so it's, like, totally fine. Just send them back.
Just knock them back,
just
baby.
Ship them back to the abyss.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
They'll turn into goop and whoop, pop out of the river or whatever. But, like, you know, there's, and that's what's fun about a D&D campaign is you can kind of present the players with, like, yep, this is a no-brainer. This thing just is terrible.
Yeah.
And then you can occasionally, right, like, when you really want to, like, something to chew on, right? That's when you get the opportunity to, like, make somebody who is multifaceted, and villains, even though they're villains, like, they're still, you know, human in the sense that, like, they feel things, right? They maybe they have insecurities. They're driven by something, right? Is it hatred? Is it pain? Is it, you know, is it the loss of a loved one to unjust circumstances? Like, what is it? I love this quote. It's like, no army ever marched to war thinking God sided with the other guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just no one is aware that they're evil. They believe that they're doing good oftentimes. And from that belief and from, you know, their senses of self-preservation, like, I can hate you and still work with you if I need to for my own ends. Yeah. Right? That's where you can have some fun.
Right. Something that I joke about a lot with Rebecca is that within the current, like, zeitgeist of film and TV and video games is this, like, trope of, like, no man would ever do anything good if he didn't have a daughter. Like that, universally,
Yeah.
all stories about men right now are like bad guys who become good because they have a daughter who needs their help. But
Dude,
like,
I mean, Last of Us, right? Pedro
Last of Us is
Pascal,
like the quintessential
the D&D movie,
Yeah,
right?
oh, yeah,
Absolute
yeah.
scoundrel, but he's got a daughter. So
yeah,
like,
he got a daughter.
yeah.
Even like, what was it, 1695 or whatever, that Adam Driver movie is, he's got a daughter who died, and so he's like
Oh.
got to make up for it with his new daughter figure. It's all the
And-
exact same trope.
yeah, it's always like bad guy has daughter, gets decent, something happens, and then he like finds a proxy, that he has
daughter
to
proxy, yeah.
become good for again. Yeah, as
You
if
know?
like yeah.
Yeah.
As if yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and so that, and I play into it. Vator does a bad thing for his daughter, right?
Yeah.
He's wants to. It's both he thinks maybe he can bring his daughter back, but also he could punish the gods. So it's like a double win for him.
Oh, dude, Vator's I was gonna ask, like, how did you conceive or think about Vator? Because like he was fascinating to me.
Oh, I love that. I really appreciate
man,
that.
I was like, whoa, like this guy. You have all these confounding, all these factors, right? But like the heart, the presence of it, of course, his daughter, right? Like,
yeah.
So like, how did you conceive of that? What was that process like when you were thinking about him?
So I love a villain who is a victim. That's like a really big, like I'm extremely influenced by like Berserk, where like the primary villain in that was first a victim before he became the monster that he becomes, the horrible monster that he becomes.
Right.
And I think there's like I think people in general do evil things when they're at their most vulnerable. And that's like, so I wanted to try and figure out the circumstances under which I could sort of like explore this idea of like the old gods, and then also like what came before the old gods, and like, because I just find all of that so fascinating. We had the cycles at work.
Yeah.
I don't know how I like found Vator. I knew I wanted to do something like culty. Like that was what
Yeah.
attracted me.
Yeah.
I think it's because I worked backward from what we had determined, what you had revealed to me about the abyss and the way that it connected, that like there was a way out of Elbor through the abyss,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I gotta get there. So I worked backwards into like, okay, I gotta have some kind of like logical, like followable path, not to use too pointed a word, to getting to that place.
Yeah.
And who's capable of doing that.
Right.
So I was like, he's got to be really fucking smart.
Yeah.
And and this is something that Ethan did a little bit with Kodan Vo, right? Where it's like, he's a really smart guy, but he's not that like powerful,
Right.
actually. He's just really smart.
Yeah.
So he can like follow the work of this like guy who is even brighter, like who's super genius level Lakain, right? And then between the work, and he also gets an assist from Marius without knowing it, right? So between the work of these two sort of like unlikely, this odd couple, they are able to find their way to this entry point for both Raimsa and, in the same respect, the gods of malice. Sorry, this is
No.
It's just interesting because it all does come from like starting with one thing and then just working in reverse to this thing where you go like, well, I need a villain who's capable of doing this kind of thing, and then what kind of villain? And it's kind of what we were talking about before with like the 5 whys. It's okay, well, but why would he want to do that? And it's like, well, he's mad at the gods, right? And then also I was like, and Raim's is like pulling at him a little bit, pulling at his heartstrings, and so there's the thing that I was most worried about with Key to the Universe that I think worked out okay, ultimately because of the way y'all are as like role players and the way that you made it personal, was I was a little worried of the conflation of villains, of like not really being able to distinguish between like what evil was coming from Osrogor and what evil was coming from Raimsa. Because like in my like flow chart or whatever, it's like Raimsa is the progenitor of all of it, right? It's trying to get in however it can. And it like finds Osrogor because Osrogor is the god of vengeance. And so it's like, okay, you and I are lined up.
That's
so
a feeling that
I can like, so it's like in the juncture, right? There's all of these potential vessels, and it pulls Osrogor up to like activate him, basically calling the court of the unforgiven, all the weird monsters that I had serving him, and then and also calling effectively to Vator, and from across the sea, right? So Vator makes this giant trek because he has this like vendetta. He has the revenge. He wants revenge against the gods. So it's like that connection is pulling him all the way. So is that kind of like thread? And then it became about how, why does this guy hate the gods so much? And also, what's the most like human loss he can have experienced to make him want that revenge in a way that isn't too flimsy.
Flimsy, man. That's a good word. Like, I mean, typically, and like you brought up a lot of, I think, incredible jumping points for like in a framework for like how do you build compelling villains, and it's like they can't just, you know what I mean? Like Thanos watched everyone in his family starve.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like people weren't willing to make what he viewed as like the tough decisions to like, you know, like manage the resources and like choose things, right? They just let people do it. And so he was like clearly like Thanos experienced like the tragedy of the commons in his like life, and then as a result is like, well, I can fix this and I can make, and in a way, like in a really twisted way, and you have to be able to kind of think like this, I think. It's like it comes from this really twisted place of almost like altruism. Yeah. You know what I mean? This attempt to like make it right. Right. You know what I mean? It's just guided by so much personal and twisted up emotions that like, and when you suffer at an incredibly a level of depth, right? Like any other suffering that's less than that is like excusable. Right. It's like, well, it's not as bad as what I went through, or it's not as bad as what you can go through. Right. So that's permissible to me. Right. Yeah. 100%. Right. Like it's in, so like you can kind of dismiss it. Sure. Maybe you will suffer, but this is better for everyone in the long run, which is kind of what Vator, because Vator he's a 600-year-old elf, right? Spent most of his life studying the old gods, like studying them and like worshiping, like basically like chronologizing them and trying to understand them, like going to Primordia to research a very extremely dangerous place, like living with the dust goblins at times, and like not inside of Gorath's Ascent, of course, but having those. Oh, like, he could have been there. Who knows? Maybe he's a crafty Gibbs guy. Is old. Gibbs doesn't know. Also, he did mention, he's like, you just let anybody in here now. Vator could have been there in the last couple of years. You know what I mean? So. But just that idea of like he gave up so much of his life to this, and then it all turned when he experienced this tremendous loss, and it's like this daughter, this like glimpse of this daughter that he could have had, who is now this like horrifying thing, and that was something that I was like that I have experienced some very personal like the most personal horror I have experienced is a sort of medical kind of horror. And so that was something that I felt comfortable like having as his like source of his terror slash grief and compulsion also, right? And that was something that I found it very motivating. So it's like, okay. I like, you know, like I've talked about this, and like I'm a pretty sweet guy. I think I'm pretty nice. Hell yeah. And but I know definitively, like under the right circumstances, like maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but like, I know what I could be capable of. Sure, if, like, like I have, you know, 2 sisters and a mom and dad I dearly love. Yeah. Like I've been in situations where someone was like testing those waters, and I just like, and I'm like, oh my God, that's almost scary. What, like how easy it is to just, you know what I mean? Like I've been 100%. In situations where my anger has completely overcome any reasonable objection that I would have to like, you know, committing violence against another person because they like made my sister afraid. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Like I know that, and so like, it's like sometimes it may be hard to put people in that situation, but if you really reflect, right, and you're like, there's a couple scenarios under which like I might be capable of some things I don't think I'd be capable of in any normal circumstance. That's kind of the point. Well, and that's your not your
job necessarily, but it's the pleasure of being a storyteller in many respects, is to go like, okay, well, let me take that little kernel of myself and be like, what does that look like if I were to like plant it and let it be its own thing,
acting as if acting the truth under a set of imaginary circumstances, right is I think Meisner's definition of acting or something like that, which is ultimately, you know, that is what we do, right? We inhabit characters, we manifest their actions as if we were in their circumstances. So it ultimately is like a big improv and acting exercise, I think, in many respects. We just, you know, with a little gambling mixed in, but like, you know, to that point, right? It's like, it's kind of our job in a way to like think about them. I think, and it's fascinating when you talk about, you know, speaking of actors, right? I think like it was either, I think it was Mads Mikkelsen who basically, dude, so good, right?
I love him.
He's
so much.
Amazing. If I ever meet him, I'm just gonna be like, sir, and I'm gonna shake his hand.
Good job.
But he talked about like how interesting he finds villains, and how compelling they are, and how like it's an interesting exercise to like get in the head of that, right? And be like, okay, well, if these were the set of beliefs that I had, right? And it's also very interesting that you brought up this idea of like, you know, victims first, which I think is like, we see that that's true. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like in many, I mean, and here's the other thing. Some people, obviously, like maybe they're just wires got crossed. 100%. Right? They're like, there are the you know, whatever, Jeffrey Dahmers of the world who like grew up in reasonably, from what I understand, I could be wrong, don't at me or anything, but I'm pretty sure he like grew up in like a reasonably fine household, functioning family, you know, like core nuclear family, like his parents weren't absolute pieces of shit, and you know, he did what he did, right? There are monsters out there, and those villains can be really fun and interesting,
for sure.
But often, very often, villains are made, not born, right? They're made as a result of circumstance. And we see that in, you know, the real life data of like people who commit crime tended to be victims of crime first, right? Like that's from a young age or whatever. And that's a whole other topic of conversation, not to be like, you know.
It's real. And it's the thing that we have like I think it's I don't want to call it a luxury or like an honor feels too loaded, but it is kind of an honor, or the opportunity maybe is the word I'm looking for. Like as storytellers to go like, you know, it perfectly fine to have like a sociopath kind of setup where it's just like, this guy's just evil because he likes it.
He enjoys it.
He likes being evil. And that's something to explore, right? But there's an opportunity to, like, what we do with stories is like try to understand humanity, try to understand ourselves and others, right? And so it's like this cool opportunity to go, okay, well, what makes this person do this horrible thing? And I think like that is my personal favorite thing to do in D&D is try to understand those kinds of people. And try to understand that within myself as well, of like, okay, well, what motivates my mistakes and my missteps and things like that too. So I think there's like, that's just like what if it's something that you don't do by default, like I think you're missing out on that chance to just like to learn some shit about how people work.
How these flesh suits operate. You know what I mean? No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. It's like, it is a fascinating thing to try to step into the mind of someone that is so alien and be like, okay, why, right? To go back to our why? Yeah. And ask yourself these questions of like, why do these people operate this way? What in their life has happened to them? And I think that it's like interesting, right? Because the heroes in D&D are aspirational often, right? They're aspirational. They're the versions of ourselves that we could be, right? Yeah. I love books and stories so much because I feel like books and stories show us both the heights we're capable of when we act when we act in accordance with the most foundational good principles, right? Yeah. When we're willing to sacrifice, to collaborate, to cooperate, to love, right? Like the things that we're capable of. But books also teach us, right? And they show us through these cautionary tales, and villains are always the cautionary tale of like what people are capable of, right? If they're not if they're not steered down the right path, if they're not given the outlets to express and talk about the things that have happened to them, because we all, right, like everybody's heard stories of people that horrible things have happened to, and then they turn out to be the most kind-hearted, the most compassionate, the most beautiful versions of humanity that we have to offer.
Yeah.
And then you see like a different person put in those same inciting incidents, but maybe through circumstance or just like maybe not having the right couple people out or the right temperament or whatever.
Yeah.
Go a very different route. And that's fascinating, right? Because I think that like in that exploration, maybe we start to unravel a little bit of like how do we steer more people down the former, not the latter, right? Like how do we steer more people that way? How do we recognize the signs? How do we check in with ourselves and be like, oh, is this my villain origin, right? Like, am I making poor decisions? Am I allowing my desires to am I allowing my own desires to enable me to dismiss the suffering of others because it happened to me and it's worse, right? Like, and you get into trouble there really fast. Yeah. So it's like, I think that's an interesting, like...
I think you've got your flashlight on there as well.
I do, yeah. I totally do. I was like, how is it? There we go. It's off.
There you go.
But yeah, I think that's an interesting, and it can be fun. It can also be kind of scary, right? When you're like, whoa, like you get into some dark territory.
I wonder I'm curious about your opinion on this. Like, because I when I present this to people, I have sometimes gotten the feedback that D&D is not the game for it. You know, that it's like D&D is a game for black and white villains. And, you know, because of the way the mechanics function, the way that it started as a combat simulator, as a war game, right? It's not really about, but what is more human and vulnerable than war? Yeah. That was my retort to that.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? And then I'll tell you what I think.
Gut check wise, I think that I disagree with the idea that D&D is not the game for it, because I think you can have very interesting, very compelling villains, and you also get the opportunity, right? These really to be the ones who redeem somebody, right? Like you get that opportunity, and I disagree really profoundly with that statement. What I do think though is that you can have too much murkiness, right? And like we've talked about this. I think that in my opinion, right, coming into DM and take over halfway was like, I felt that in Elbor that an element of the story that was missing was we didn't really have there were too many ghosts to chase in a way. Yeah. And I wanted to maybe at least start setting up and laying the groundwork for like there's things. Somebody we can go after, and like Corvin. Again, right? Kind of just an evil dude. Not really very compelling from he was power hungry. Yeah. And I'm sure if you sat down and, talked to him in therapy, maybe he'd reveal it. But I was like, no, this guy just kind of sucks. He's a lich, right? But again, right? He's a monster.
He's a monster.
Now. His humanity has been stripped away.
100%.
And he's out for power. But interestingly enough, the guy you thought was the bad guy, which is Vastronath, maybe turned out to be a little bit different than you guys anticipated. 100%, right?
Yeah, very, very.
And there were other villains throughout. So I disagree with that it's not the game for it. I think that it is. You got to be mindful though of getting lost in the sauce a little
100%.
bit, right? Where it's like, are there these opportunities to explore, that sort of. The gray area and the interesting cultural relativism and cultural or moral relativism, I should say, right? Yeah. That can be really fun and interesting if you have the table for it, if you have a bunch of mature players and who are interested in engaging with that content. Yeah. So the premise that D&D is not the game for it is depends on your table. Yeah. Depends on your table. Do you want, and there are people who are like, there are a lot of people who are like, I don't need complex, interesting bad guys. I just want evil to smite. Right. And it's like, cool, then that's the game we'll play if we're all in agreement there. But 100%. This table, no, we're interested in exploring. Yeah, right? Yeah. So I think
that was so much of my incidentally my thrust for Kel. Once he was not the cleric devoted to killing all followers of Famir, it was I was like, okay, well he's not gonna be that. So instead he's gonna be the guy who's pulling for the bad guys to come around. Yeah. And if D&D is a power fantasy, why can that not be my fantasy? You know what I mean? Yeah. My wish fulfillment is a world where I have the opportunity, time, patience, and resources to rehabilitate some people. Yeah. To actually invest in people that that can get a second chance.
Yeah.
It's not about should or if they deserve it or not, but like giving sentient beings a chance to redeem themselves. Like, what could be more valuable than that?
And that is an incredible power fantasy.
Yeah.
Right? Incredible power fantasy. Like, I mean, that is a superpower, right?
Yeah.
Like, I agree wholeheartedly. Like, the power fantasy can look different to everybody. You know,
Right.
maybe yours is to kill a dragon
Just
in a single stroke,
right.
right? But
Yeah.
which is cool. Like,
It
I'm
is
not here to
cool.
yuck
Way
anybody's
cool.
yum. That's
Look,
super fun.
I
You know,
love that stuff.
I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z. I wanted to be Goku. You know what I mean?
100%.
I wanted to spear bomb the shit out of some stuff.
I always like Krillin for some reason.
Krillin was awesome because he's a good little guy. He's just the best little dude.
He's just everybody's best friend.
Yeah, he's a good dude. You know,
I mean,
he's
he
got-
ends up with Android
Yeah, he
18,
does,
right? So
dude.
he's doing something right.
Krillin,
My man,
yeah,
Krillin.
yeah. Oh, Krillin's that guy's got a wrench or something. Sorry, that was inappropriate. But no, he's Krillin's got it. He got game. That guy's got
He got
riz.
game. He's a hero too.
But yeah, but no, I mean, I agree, right? Like power fantasy, that looks different to everybody. Maybe it's to heal sickness. Maybe it's to rehabilitate the mentally unwell. Maybe it's to rehabilitate people who have committed evil, right? Maybe it's to fix I don't know, it could be anything. Power fantasy looks different to everybody. Like where do you want to be empowered in your life? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I like that a lot. I think that is a very, very acceptable power fantasy. And I think that people who say like, man, D&D is not for that. It's like maybe not for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But don't tell me I'm playing the game wrong if I'm not just like kill monsters and everybody's not just like I want to murder for murder's sake. Like that's not interesting to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes it's fun. Don't get me wrong.
Well, and there's also like there's so much room for it, right? Because you can do war and you can do these guys are bandits who have decided they'd rather rob people than earn an honest day's work. But then my first thought is, well, why how did the system fail them to make them think that way?
Yeah. Right.
But it's like they could still be a bridge too far at that point. Right,
Yeah.
but at least there is causality for their existence.
Yeah,
right? Like,
in the Stormlight Archive, which is I love those books. There is a group of like bandits. They're deserters and they're desperate and it's because they've been forced to fight to enrich the noble elite of their freaking society. For God knows how long. They're out in shattered plains away from family. They don't want to do this anymore, so they desert, and then they come into contact with one of the protagonists, and it's a little dicey, and you can see what is about to happen, and it's not good. And she, like, through her abilities, and she like gets them to stop, and then like 2 or 3 books later, they're like her closest, most loyal friends, protectors, servants, and they're doing good, right? Because someone finally invested in them, right? And I think that is the ultimate power fantasy. Is there are so many people who've just been left behind. And like, what better power fantasy than to have the, like you said, time, patience, resources, and ability to invest in someone who, fucking grass grows where you water it, man. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
And so it's like that's an amazing power fantasy. And I think that is interesting to explore because it also, again, it gives me as a person and a human hope, right? That like in our stories, we see what we're capable of.
Right.
And that is the ultimate power fantasy to me. So
100%. I mean, that's the artist's vision.
Yeah. Can our art transform the world, right? Or not even transform the world, but just fuck one person.
Fucking seed some kind of hope.
Just move the needle a tiny bit in the right direction. If that's all we ever do with all of this, that's enough. Because if enough people move the needle just a little bit, right? Like that compounds, and that's something pretty remarkable.
Couldn't agree more. I don't even want to play the clip if I'm honest, because it's not really relevant to this discussion.
Yeah, I know. I feel like this conversation really organically went, and because like she's kind of just a bad lady.
Let's do it, I guess, because now we're talking about it. So this is Sami Kazari being horrible.
She sucks. God, I hate it.
The absolute worst.
Sure.
I think this is good in terms of just talking about the real time elements of it. That's the thing that I So this clip is the leader of the Crownlink crew, the Oro patrons. So not even the top.
Yeah, she's second in command of one of the families.
Yeah, family.
Yeah, basically.
Do not do this.
You see, Yeti,
Stop calling me that.
that's where you're wrong. Strength and cunning are the calculus of the crew. and betrayal, someone has to pay the price. And she takes the knife from her hip and she slashes Still's throat.
Can I do anything?
You can attempt to. If you'd like, what are you going to try?
I felt
Or the
bad.
dying.
about
There's
this.
that question.
It's counterspelled.
Kellic,
I will not just watch an execution for nothing.
You don't see anything, but as you move forward, you run into something visible that you can't see. There's a wall of force around you. Spell effects cannot pass through the wall.
I'm punching it.
Yeah, you rail against it.
Damn you! You hear me? I will destroy you when we come back from the gods.
You pound against the wall.
Know this there will be penance to come from Kellic Grey, the ace.
You scream. You hear it dimly on the other side of the wall. The veer, it sounds very far away.
Whatever years remain to me, I will dedicate to removing you from this place.
Sil, I'm
I was gonna say,
sorry.
you dropped some fucking hard lines in this speech.
I wouldn't have come back if I did not have to. This will not stand.
They respond in a whisper only you can hear. You were always too good for this life.
Awesome.
I'd do it again.
Heavy stuff, man. Hard game to DM that one.
Oh, I hated
feel
that.
for you. I
hate it.
And frankly, every time I've now made some version of this clip like 4 or 5 times,
or
yeah.
something, yeah.
And I feel such like hot like embarrassment whenever I watch it because I
Why?
feel so self-conscious about like kind of being, I don't know, rude to you somehow or something like that, where it's like I'm so keenly aware of like what your job is as a DM in that moment. And like I'm like, oh my God, I'm being such an asshole. I'm like rubbing your face in how evil you're being when you're like, I gotta be evil. Like this is an evil person. And then I'm like, fuck you. And it's like it is like such a specifically D&D kind of moment because in my heart of hearts, I'm like, so glad you did it.
Yeah.
But then Kellic can't not behave like
Yeah.
that way, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just like I created this character where like something I have in the mythical legendary PowerPoint of Venture Forth is
yeah.
like committing to your character is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you have exactly one hill for your character to die on,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise you got to be flexible, but you
Yeah.
can pick one. And this is like
That's
Kellic's
his hill, yeah.
where he's like, I will literally die right now. I literally
Yeah.
get crossbowed into oblivion
Yeah.
because I can't just like let this happen.
Which, like, honestly, like that was an outcome that I was ready for.
Yeah.
Like that room. Like if you guys would have started a fight in there, it would have been a TPK.
yeah,
Like because I'm like, again, right, like consequence and just like verisimilitude and congruency.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody would have made it out. I don't know. Maybe there would have been some kind of an intervention. I really couldn't for sure say, but like I had Zami statted out. She's
Right.
a CR like 17 or 18 creature, just her.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh God, this is gonna hurt. And then like Mortis and Lyra or whatever her
Right.
name were there, and like. Yeah, there were a bunch of stuff, but so don't feel embarrassed. One, because it was really cool because like I think in a lot of ways we got this really interesting contrast between the way Kellic reacted to it and the way that Seeker reacted to it, and that's because like Seeker has all of that context for who these people are and Kellic doesn't.
Yeah.
which is very interesting.
Yeah.
and like. And it's funny because it felt so gratuitous, right? But it wasn't, because if they were into gratuitous violence, Kellic probably would have also just, right? There would have been, but it was like, that like you got put in the hamster ball, right? Like
Yeah.
we're gonna quiet him because like an example had to be made.
Yeah.
And that was like the whole rationale or the raison d'etre of all of that was, but I loved it. I thought that like it made 100% sense, right? Kellic's like outrage was 100% justified because it did feel right to Kellic, because absent all the context
Yeah.
of like who these people are, how this world right
Yeah.
operates, it makes sense.
Well, and it's like I even like in character, Kellic and Seeker have a conversation after where Kellic's like, "You could have fucking prepped us." He's like,
Right.
"We did not know
What
we were
we
getting
walked
into.
into.
Like this
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
What? I didn't think it was gonna be
like this.
Yeah, like
like
this
everybody
bloody.
you can talk to, right?
Right. Yeah.
But like in this place and there,
Right, yeah.
you know?
Kellic is used to being able to navigate because he's like made a life of like moving between different kinds of communities.
Yeah.
But this is like a place where nobody wants to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, he was just out of his depth, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was also, but I think like in so many ways, right? Like that all like I know that like you've talked about like having worries or concerns about this scene.
Yeah.
But like I do think in retrospect, right? Like, and at the time I was trying to navigate because I wanted you to have that, and I knew that was very true to your character, but I did want to like make sure to. So like I partially like I was like, okay, I feel like I've honored this, but now I got to put him away so that we can focus on the dynamic there. Sorry, I just thought I'd like shadows. It looked like someone was about to fall. Anyway, but so I wanted to like, again, right? Like as a DM, you want to give agency, you want to honor that space, but also congruency and consequence. Like, okay, this is a thing that has happened. I'm going to do like, this is how they're going to handle it. And then to make sure Seeker had that time. And then, but after, all it did was like really thematically cement this idea that these two guys come from two different worlds.
100%.
And it is really interesting to be like, to have that conversation of like, dude, what the fuck?
Right.
Like, I've never seen anything operate like that. And it's like, yeah, because Kellic grew up in a very different environment. For Seeker, he was like so quiet because there was an inevitability about it that he knew.
Yeah.
And he was like, yep, this is what happens here. This is how this fucking goes.
Right.
And there's nothing I can do to stop it.
So powerless.
Not now. He's so powerless in this moment. And he knows it. But Kellic doesn't.
Yeah.
And all that did was really...
Well, and the whole campaign, Kellic has been like, I'm a champion of the gods.
Yeah.
Like and even when we were whatever level we were in episode 11, right? The first thing I do is fucking just like inflict wounds on a person and take them to 0 HP when they like are stealing from poor people. And Kellic is like, well, fuck you. And it's this idea of Kellic being like, if I am the chosen one, then I should operate without fear. Like that, it's like, I will, like if the gods picked me, then I'm going to represent.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna step to it, even if it's, certain doom. But good on you as a DM, because I would not, at least not, now I know, right? But at that point, I didn't, like I knew what Wall of Force was, but I don't know if I could have whipped it out like that and been like, this is a perfect solution so that the scene can carry on and like Shane can have his moment, but also shut the fuck up. But it's
and I mean, like I knew who was all there, right? So like Zami is a very, very highly trained. I think her subclass is just straight assassin, but like all juiced up basically. Because I never build NPCs like I do PCs. Right. But there were a number of one of Seeker's old crew was a bard, and then there was another, like there were 3 mages, 1 archmage and 2 regular mages who like brought out Syl on the Tensor's floating disc. Yeah. Because there's a presentory element to it, which makes it even dirtier.
It's more grotesque.
It's more grotesque. There's like this presentory, like it was a spectacle, and it was made to be, and it was supposed to be. The reason Mortis is in such a shit mood in the episode before this is because he probably knows what's coming, right? Because he's like, I haven't talked to Syl all day. I know Seeker's back in town, right? And like I know Mortis was the only one who knew what Syl did. Happened, so that's why he's like, not today, because he's like, I know what's about to happen to you, to them. So like again, just to give more context, like,
and then Mortis is like, I drinking green tea all goddamn day.
You bring the demons out of me.
I've been drinking green tea all goddamn day.
Oh, man, he hit his ass with a parking cone, man. Nice.
God, I go to church every goddamn Sunday. You gonna bring the demons out of me?
I go to church every Sunday. But no, and so like, and this was probably the hardest episode to GM for me in the whole campaign, because I am innately. I love you guys. Right. I don't want to hurt you. Right. I don't want to do these mean things, and I don't want to hurt people. Like, I don't like gratuitous violence as a person, right? Like, justified, like, violence, I'm like, yep, cool, all on board with that. Yeah. But, like, just, like, for the sake of just pure power and, like, making an example of someone, so much ick to me, right? Like, it's just so antithetical, but I was also just, like, I have to, right? It is partially my obligation as the GM to inhabit these people, to make them believable, and then, and also to give you guys that force to push against, to give you guys something to contrast with, where it's like, oh, wow. And also, like, the Crown Link crew still exists. Like, these people are still in power in Westreach, right? Like, they're not changed by all of the events that happened. And to go
Not
back to
yet.
like, not yet, right?
Not yet.
And but that was also an epilogue thing that we got to discuss. Was like, hey, we have this now, and that's beautiful. We have this,
Kellic made a promise.
right? He
Go
made a
keep it.
promise, and he's going to do his best to freaking keep it. Absolutely. And so now, like, we have this opportunity to, in the future, be like, when the Crown Link crew appears, maybe there's a mantle around, right?
Yeah.
Like someone deep inside who's
Yeah.
like trying to change things.
Yeah.
And that's just, again, great. All of these opportunities then present later opportunities for further world building.
Right, which I think is like a cool example of it not being anybody's perfect
Yeah.
execution.
Yes.
To use too sharp a word,
Yeah.
but of this thing, but it becoming something else entirely.
Oh, yeah.
That afterward we can all look back on and be like, oh, maybe I feel insecure about such and such thing, but like, what a moment!
People fucking love everything about this.
And yeah, it's like really, it's that feeling of like, oh my, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Right? Because we all felt that.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
You know, Flynn's like half dead on the ground as
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
It was a big build up to a very big moment. And I mean, it was a loss. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like the Agents of Repair did not win here. And it was really maybe the first
Yes.
time we saw them lose
Yeah.
and not be able to like fix it, which I think was a very interesting thing to happen to them right before they then get the opportunity to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I didn't,
And I know we need to bring her back in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
minute, but I just to sort of like put one final like this as another like big mark in the like list of things to do to make a good villain
Yeah.
is like have them defeat the player characters early on,
Yeah.
so that the player characters have something to hate,
Yes.
you know, so that they can
Yeah.
get them back later, you know,
Yeah.
I can hit them back later down the road,
Absolutely.
right? Like, because there is nothing better than it's like, yeah, you're completely powerless here,
Yeah.
because this guy is tougher than you,
because
or
they've
because of the
architected the
circumstance.
situation to be that
Yeah,
way, right?
and
like,
so now you have, like, you can set your sights on
yeah,
something, right?
because I mean,
Yeah.
like, they all like this was very orchestrated, right? They knew what they were doing. This is a very clandestine,
Yeah.
very expert, big group,
Very
lots
organized.
of resources, very organized.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing, and you guys like they you know.
No, I really
was a
appreciated
whole-
this from like the work that Ronnie and I did on the Crown Link crew to just be like, because I think there was mainly because of certain just
Propensities.
elements of and just the ways that like I don't know, I didn't necessarily plan elements of My City of Ruins well enough to make sure that the Crown Link crew ended up presenting the way I wanted. Like it was cool to see the Crown Link crew doing what it does best instead of it kind of like not really seeming to have its ducks in a row. you know?
Right, feeling,
Like,
yeah.
potentially like not necessarily being as clandestine, as cunning as they need to be in order to like work
To be and be
this
congruent
world.
in the world, because it's like,
Yeah.
well, if big time mages and all these good heroes exist, how does an organization like this survive? And it's
Right.
like, that's
'Cause
how,
they're
because they're very
sinister.
capable. Again, right? They're just as good at being evil as you are at being a hero.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's really important. Again, you want that resistance. So, but and it goes back to an earlier topic of conversation. I know we got to get Rebecca in, but you know, co-world building, right? Like that was the one thing that you asked me
Yeah.
about. He was like, you were just like, can you just make sure the Crown Link crew is like,
I just didn't want them to be a joke anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, Seekers out here being like, I can get you out of the Crown Link crew, no big deal. And it's like, no, you can't.
No, you
no,
can't.
you can't.
No, you
So
can't.
many people have tried and
Yeah.
are dead.
Yeah, and are dead. Seeker literally had to die to do it,
like
right?
including Seeker.
So yeah, including Seeker. So it's just and you know that's how you build very compelling villains is you give them really strong motivations, and you got to remember that the villains are just as good at being
They're
bad as the
competent.
heroes are at being good. They're
Nothing
competent.
scarier than competence.
Yeah, right. Like evil villains are good at being evil.
Yeah.
You know the dumb evil henchman joke is fun, but like whoever's at the top, they know what the fuck they're doing,
Yeah.
right? And these guys do. So
Yeah.
and that's how you build really interesting. And that's one piece of I think how to build, make them compelling, give the player something to push against, give them a target to chase,
Yeah.
and something clear that they can go after, even if the person or personality
has nuances.
is nuanced.
Well, and
yeah.
that's where like you have the different vessels, right?
Yeah.
Because the both of us in both instances, right? You have like the Lich, who's like the pure evil or whatever, and then you've got the underlings of the Lich, who are all motivated by their own personal vendettas and whatnot, right? And then those people have a little more nuance in the same way, like like Raimza, it's just like a pure evil source,
Yeah.
so that like there is something to point to at the
Yes.
bottom of the pit that
Yes.
is like this is where it's kind of all trickling down
Yeah.
from, and it's making the most vulnerable people worse as a result,
Yes.
and like those people then can become the villains with a face,
Yeah.
right, and the people who are capable of being saved, right?
Yes.
And therein lies the nuance and
Yeah.
conflict and
It's
the
like
juice, the
there's a
sauce.
rotten root at the core, but you can trim the branches and try to keep it healthy,
Right.
And then excise that
Yeah.
cancer, right?
Yeah.
Corvin, Raimsa,
Yeah.
there's something there to get at, but then along the way you can try to save the organism, the tree,
Yeah,
right? You don't have to fucking go scorched earth,
right.
and that's how you do it, right? That's the power fantasy.
That's the
So.
that's the convenience of like
Yeah.
magic and demons and
Yep.
stuff, right? Is you can do both.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can have it all.
D&D.
All right, let's hear about some villains. Maybe.
Rebecca!
So in this segment, Rebecca reads us a story from it's either like an Am I the Asshole or a
Horror
D&D
story.
horror story, something, right? And Shane and I kind of react in real time as Rebecca's reading it. We like these little flags because it's like as we hear it, we like to like be like that's a green flag or that's a red flag, right? Like
I really like the sound they make.
it's the best. It's very satisfying. And then at the end we get all the context and we kind of weigh in on the situation itself. So
And if you have a
yes.
a horror story or a question as to whether or not you are the asshole, please do send it to adventureforthdnd@gmail.com with the subject line D&D horror story
And we'll decide.
or AITA.
We'll weigh in.
And and we will tell you.
Yeah. And if you're in the Twitch chat tonight, we pre-record these and stream them live, but Shane and I are always in the chat. So if you have a question,
We're right there in the
we're
chat
right
right
there with you.
now.
So ask us. All right,
Hi,
Rebecca.
Shane.
Hi, Dad. Who do we know for sure is going to be on stream? Hey, Van. Hi, Van. Shout out, Van. One of
Shout
our
out, Van,
awesome
my goat.
mods. Faye. Hopefully you're there. Maybe. I don't know. She's an amazing mod.
Wherever you are, Faye,
You're the goat.
you're the goat.
the Queen Regent.
That's right.
All right.
Tell us a story.
Yeah.
This is a D&D horror story.
Excellent. Bum, bum.
Edgelord DM and his ridiculously overpowered, obvious villain Sue.
Ooh.
Sue?
Sue? A boy
Villain?
Like a
named
Mary
Sue?
Sue? Like a Mary Sue?
Villain Sue. Gotcha.
Villain
Villain Sue.
Sue.
Wow.
Interesting.
Doesn't really roll off the tongue.
It really doesn't, does it?
Well,
Okay, before you start, my favorite thing about all of these Reddit stories, at the risk of being the meanest d-bag on Reddit, I just love the writing.
yeah. Oh, good.
I just love the occasional dashes of the flourishes of
They're
creativity
really
they
trying to make
employ.
a story out
They
of it.
really are, man. They're
Yeah,
weaving it in.
they're trying it. They're selling it, man.
This was posted a month ago.
Oh, wow.
So-
This is recent.
This
This is
recent.
recent.
Okay.
And the OP, it has like a brackets deleted, so maybe they deleted their Reddit account.
Oh, wow.
There's not a lot of comments on this though, so I don't think it was
so
because
it's
of this.
it's a sleeper. It's a sleeper
Yeah.
hit.
So,
Rebecca doing the deep research.
Yeah.
nope.
Nope. First thing came up. I'm just kidding.
Going to be a bit of a short post since I wasn't in this campaign long. DM is that kind of dark and gritty. The kind that includes incessant child murder and gross out. He introduces an obvious villain, Sue, that's this changeling, bard, rogue, jester. The worst kind of multi-class. Haven't seen a single one that wasn't a painfully unamusing edgelord, but that's a story for another day. The character essentially
You deleted your
acts...
account. Go ahead, sorry.
The character essentially acts like Vivzy Pop wrote him.
Don't know what that is.
I
VIVZIEPOP.
nope.
All one word.
Got nothing.
Cool. We don't understand that reference. Maybe because we're too old.
Too old.
Maybe. Maybe.
There's this shock value scene where the character kills a 14-year-old girl by making her into some kind of human balloon animal, describing in disgusting detail, bringing to mind some sort of fucked up fetish story you'd find on DeviantArt or some shit. Then the actual fight begins and the DM starts showing his whole ass. Let's do a rundown. The character uses a bullshit magical artifact that can insta-kill a PC if they don't roll a ridiculously high save. The character has 3 actions and 2 turns for some fucking reason. The DM constantly gloats and overall acts like an arrogant middle schooler with his obvious power scaling. Later in the fight, the character becomes ethereal, in quotes. So, of course, none of us could hit him. and does a bullshit move to basically use PCs as marionettes with a ridiculously high save because of fucking course. I fudged a roll because I was getting tired of this shit by that point. If he can bend the rules, so can I. We are running short on time because his turns take forever, so his character tries to leave. I half joke, parentheses, I wasn't really joking at all, and parentheses, that my character's level 20 Archfey patron cast Planeship to send the changeling to the 9 hells to get eaten by worms right after I cast Mental Prison. Honestly, after all of the nonsense this DM pulled, he's lucky I didn't think of something worse. I don't mind challenging encounters. What bothers me is flagrantly unfair encounters where it's obvious the DM is just on a power trip. There were a whole lot more expletives in here that I just decided to cut out on because
Good on you.
I thought one or two was enough.
Yeah, that's plenty.
Yeah.
That's plenty.
Yeah, the DM sounds like a fucking dick. Like, you know what I mean?
Expletive. We understand.
It's funny because in the last episode we did one, and I was like, I agree, no notes, great job. This one I'm like, yeah, that sounds awful. Like, everything about that sounds pretty terrible.
It does. It does. It does beg the question, like, where was the opportunity to go above table? You know? Like, how soon could you have been like, hey, this feels, like, really unfair?
Yeah.
Can, like, we
Are we not supposed to be fighting him?
walk
Is this
this
like a
back
coup
a
for
bit?
us?
Or, like,
Yeah.
But it does sound like the players ultimately won because he plane shifted it, or I'm confused.
No, it seems like the fight was going too long and they were running out of time.
So they just, like,
So
arbitrarily
so the DM was
decided-
going to like pop out for whatever arbitrary reason
He was going to bamf
he was
away.
going to bamf away for no reason.
Which
Because
is
he
also
couldn't kill them
fine.
all, I guess, because the villain couldn't kill them all. I don't really know.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, this is a nuanced conversation. Like, I said this, I think, in this episode. I was like, as a DM, you don't build NPCs like you build PCs because like it's one brain, right? Like, everybody at the table only has one character to run. Like, I've had combats where I'm running like 11 creatures, right? And it's like, so in order to avoid that, it's like I'll create NPCs that have like double the HP that a fighter would, and like Fane had way more hit points than he should for his level, or whatever, you know what I mean? Because I'm trying to make it a little bit easier to run on myself, so I have to remember 5 builds in my head. And so, like, I remember I was at a table and we were fighting, and a creature cast a spell and then attacked 3 times. I was like, they can do that? And my DM was like, yeah, I don't have to. I'm not fucking making PCs. And I was like, whoa. And it like blew my mind. I was like, that's 100% right. I don't have to follow the PC rules. Monsters are not built like player characters.
Yeah, it's different.
Because it's just, sometimes it's just easier.
It is different. It's
Yeah,
just,
it's
that's,
just different.
that's how it's balanced.
So, like, that's maybe, like, I understand some elements. Like, I've definitely, it's like between the characters, NPCs action, villain action, lair action, right? Legendary action. Like, it
can feel like you have 3 turns.
Yeah,
when
the
really
thing that's weird though is like those mechanics kind of exist. So like just arbitrarily giving it 3 actions, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean maybe this
is weird.
Maybe the OP like meant those things.
Maybe,
you know,
but
or it felt that way.
Yeah, or it felt that way. It is really shitty to be a player and feel like you didn't get the warning, you don't have the congruency, right? And you don't get the and you didn't have the agency, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're just, it's like, so the stories like that make me go like, do you even need us here?
Yeah.
Like, do you what are you
what is this? What's really going on?
Well,
with
it's
this?
fascinating to me because it makes me question what level the PCs were.
Yep.
Because, for example, in our last fight with a lich, he could have had
He was
as many turns as you wanted him to have, and we would have bought it because we knew we were level 17
We were
going
like,
into
and you also
fight a
gave us
lich.
the 100 rocket launchers beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, we were juiced.
We knew.
Yeah.
We
So it was
knew
just
this
like
was going
I
to be a
was
big
like
fight.
cool with whatever he did.
Yeah, and so it does beg the question, like, well, what was this supposed to just be like the introduction of a supervillain that was then gonna like go away and come back when they're much more powerful? But it does feel like the OP in this situation just did not like the type of violence that was being used.
Yeah. Oh, that's another, like, with that context, that does, like, I don't do, right, like, there's certain things I just won't do. Like, gratuitous violence against children, not a thing I'm gonna do, right? Like, outside of like
Same.
like just like, it's like, for why, right? Like, there's certain themes that I just won't touch on, and so like the fact that he like relished in it and seemed a little giddy about it is a big red flag to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, that's odd.
I don't know why the OP came for DeviantArt like that. Like DeviantArt's just, you can put anything on there.
Yeah, there is this type of
Lots of good artists on
I
DeviantArt.
think there's this archetype of DM though that is like, I'm a mean DM, and I'm like, I don't really understand why you take such like pleasure
Pride, yeah.
in that, because
Yeah.
like we're all telling a collaborative story.
Well, you
Yeah.
gotta wonder. I wonder anyway what the DM's like vision was,
Yeah.
right? Oh, when I introduce this character, they're gonna like hate him so bad, and it's gonna be such a fun rivalry. Like, was that what they were thinking? And then it just turned out to be like they were pushing that really hard, and the players
Right.
were just like not buying into that.
Yeah.
And then like, what do you do? It sounds like he like overcommitted to it, you know?
Yeah, well, and there are modules. For instance, Curse of Strahd.
Yeah.
Right. Curse of Strahd in like the first couple pages, from what I
Strahd's
understand,
all up in it.
Strahd gets
Yeah.
introduced right out of the gate when you're like level 1.
Right.
And he's a CR 15
Strahd,
creature.
my
Like
goat.
he's supposed to kick your shit in, right?
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
kind of the point, because you're stuck in Barovia, and
Yeah.
the whole point is to like get strong enough to beat him.
Yeah.
And there's a place, we talked about this I think in the last episode, is like there is a place where you can introduce super powerful NPCs that your players are meant to like chase or meant to get after. You know what I mean? Like there's a place for that.
Yeah.
But also that's where a lot of times maybe the above table stuff can come into play,
Yeah.
right? The forewarning of
Yeah.
like, hey guys, I'm gonna put you in an uncomfortable situation. Trust me, it's
Totally,
for a good story.
totally.
I'm not here to fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this, once again, right, doesn't sound like that was communicated. It sounds like it comes out of the blue. It feels really arbitrary. And so it's just annoying.
So
Yeah.
it does just seem, if you're gonna be doing something that's gonna maybe upset your players, maybe you should have some open
Just
dialogue
give
and some
'em a
open
little heads
communication.
up.
Open dialogue, yeah, because at the risk of, I think there's an easy trap to fall into where you're like, oh, I want it to be a big surprise. And it's like, don't worry. Like, something that I only learned as a player out of many years now is like, there is a canyon between what the DM knows and what the players know. So it's like, even if you share something that you feel like is a big share of
Yeah.
like, yeah, this guy's actually CR 15 or something like that, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like, that feels like a lot of specific information.
Yeah.
It's just like, it doesn't even approach all of the things that the players don't know,
Mhm.
right? Like, one thing you and I talked about after the Vossen fight
Yeah.
was like, I was like, we were super overwhelmed by that, and you're like, it wasn't like balance wise, like you were totally up to
Yeah.
the task, right?
Mhm.
And something that I only was able to kind of like rationalize afterward was like, oh, they're just this is why it was a cool fight, and I think perfectly crafted. And why like I formally withdraw any complaint I had, but was that like there were new elements constantly introduced, and so I kept going like, who's on our side, who's vulnerable, who's like, how strong is the new person that just came in, like what CR are they, and like where's where like how do we get the queen out alive, and like how do we beat all these bad guys when like I don't even understand what foresight is, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what that spell is.
Yeah,
like, there's
yeah.
there's so many things that your players don't necessarily know, and so you can share stuff and not have it be destructive to your like
yeah.
the theatrical fourth wall, so to speak,
Right.
of DMing. Where,
Absolutely.
yeah, you still have that.
But I do remember a really important conversation we had after that fight, right? Was it arrived, that was a big lesson for me, because I remember we had this conversation where I was like, okay, and I got a sense for like, okay, what is too much of a like mechanical challenge for this table? Not in the sense that like you couldn't do it, but in the sense that like you're not really interested in it. You know what I mean? Like, cause you guys are fucking brilliant players, but it was like, I remember I was like, okay, that felt like a fight that maybe I tuned to the point where you were like, I almost forced you guys to start engaging in a style of play in an effort to survive.
Right.
And that I was like, okay, cool. Bridge, like just one bridge too far.
Yeah,
I got to dial
yeah.
I
that back.
remember that
Remember
conversation. I remember because
Yeah.
because what we talked about is how like none of us want to metagame.
Yes.
None of us at our table
We don't want a
we
munchkin.
don't
Yeah.
want to be super crunchy where we're saying you have to do that and then I have to do this and then we have to do this and we all have to
Yeah.
like discuss what we're doing
Yeah.
outside
Yeah,
of the
if
table.
you can go up and tank, then I will go to
Yes.
the back and I'll cast bless on everybody.
Exactly,
and then,
exactly. And
yeah.
we personally, it's just like a table choice,
Yeah.
want to be super immersive. And so even in battle, we don't want to be thinking mechanically
What's
like
the most
that.
optimal choice to make right
Right.
now?
Yeah, or like or even like working with each other in that way, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
well, if it's not within 6 seconds, if we can't tell our teammate to do that in the moment right then and
Yeah.
there, then we
Right.
can't plan it for 30 minutes outside of that. And
Yup.
like that's just something we all have like
Yup.
kind of like and it's so funny because we had never put words to it
Yeah.
Mhm.
until the Vossen fight.
Yeah.
And it was like
because
we
it did.
finally
It was like, oh God, if we don't start strategizing, like I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
right?
but I
Yeah.
mean, we never had put words to like that we preferred to play that way, and then
Yeah.
because of the Vossen fight, it was like, oh no, we actually do. So how do we make that happen? How do we make it so that we can work with each other
yeah,
within
and
reason?
can like hit higher mechanical challenges also.
Yeah.
because
Yes.
it was like because we were all like in agreement that like it was a fun fight
Mhm.
and that we liked the stakes of it.
Right.
But it was like, how do we make that tenable for this style of
And
play?
you'll notice, listeners, watchers, that after the Vossen fight, there was more communication
Yeah.
in character,
Yeah.
in combat
we
scenarios.
Yeah.
instituted a rule. This is a little peek behind the
Yeah.
curtain, so it's the proverbial curtain. That like we were like, okay, we can go a little bit past 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Like we will make an extra effort to communicate in character during these combat encounters to the point where it can go a little bit further.
Yeah.
If it feels like we really want
As
to
long
like
as it
get
feels
that point
within
across.
reason.
Yeah.
There's a clip that I think is coming out soon. It probably already came out of the fight with the gold golems.
Oh, yeah.
Where I'm like, Seeker, bring Oma over here so I can
Yeah.
get us out of here.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like it's simple as that, but it's like that's Kellic strategizing with Seeker and
Yeah.
not just doing
But
something
in character,
but
in
character,
real time, not being like, okay, so hang on, they're at this many death saves, so if you can spare the dying,
Right.
and then you're
Exactly,
encumbered,
Yeah,
there's
you
a
have to
are
get
you
difference.
within 5
encumbered?
feet of me
I need to be with you.
so
you
that I
yeah.
can- yeah.
It's just like get him to Oma. I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
And it's like that's all we did it
That's
in
all
character.
you need, yeah.
And
And being able to like do that when it's not my turn
Yeah.
just meant that like we could open that up and it's still as like cinematic as we want it to be, right?
I do remember I was like, we were like, wait, you don't have to, like, you can talk out of turn.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can totally communicate with one another as you would in the fight, which is to say, like, you know, again, like when you think
Barks.
about the cinematics of it, right, in the Avengers fight scenes, right, like
Yeah.
they're like yelling at one another while they're beating the shit out of
Right.
people, and like it was really fun that we got, and I mean, you know, this is maybe to emphasize like the importance of these types of experiences, right? Like they can be really bad, but you can also have experiences where at the table, if you love one another,
Yeah.
if you trust each other, and
Yeah.
if you have open and honest communication about where your desires and wants are,
Yeah.
you can come away with huge wins
Yeah.
as a result of those frictions
100%.
we talked about. And like it changed the way we played the game
Yeah.
in combat
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah.
And it made the show better because we
100%.
were all willing to be like, okay, and like, right, like you guys were like open and honest enough to be like, hey, Seth, that was a lot for us.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, in what way? And then
Yeah.
we got to the crux of it, right?
Yeah.
Which was like, you're capable of it, but we're not interested in that style of play. We
Yeah.
don't want to, I don't want to force combat encounters that make you have to start crunching the numbers.
Yeah.
You want to play your characters, not the fucking game, you
Right.
know, the mechanics.
Right.
And so it was like,
Right.
oh, cool. And then like, if you'll notice, like going forward, I was much more conscious in that. I was like, okay, here's where I know I can push a
Yeah.
little more, and like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, like, and I not to say I ever I don't fudge rolls, but there is this element of like, okay, I know that this fight is probably tuned to about that place. If I do any more, I'm pushing into that territory.
Yeah.
Right. And so like it allowed me as the DM now to engage with you guys in the way you wanted to be engaged with in a
Right.
core pillar of the game, which is
Right.
really fun.
Yeah.
It was, and I'm really
And we've
glad
had
we-
some really very fun fights since then as a result.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just again communication. It all boils down to like have chats
Before, during, and
after.
after.
And going back to creating exciting villains,
Yeah.
you don't have to make a villain that's super overpowered to make them frightening or
Yes.
threatening
Competent.
or competent.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
just need to be competent.
Yeah.
They don't need to be godlike
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah, the mechanics are there. Like, approach it with I think, right. Like if you want to make a compelling villain, approach it from the personality first, then work backwards,
Right.
right, towards what kind of person this is, right.
Yep.
And like because ultimately, like I think in D&D, the classes that people choose and all the mechanics are an expression of like who the characters are, right? So it's like same with villains. It applies. The same still applies. Like you could have a cleric who's a villain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could have a,
When we
a
used to
druid
build-
who's a villain.
When we used to build characters for people in Clubhouse, the way that I would ask them what class they wanted to be is I would say, how does this person solve their problems? Because it's like, if they do it through their cleverness, then they're a rogue or a bard. If they do it through magical stuff, then they're a wizard. Like if they solve it through violence, then they're a barbarian. You know, like there's like it's like how does this person like when they're faced with something, what's their go-to for how they're gonna fix it? And it's like that's a nice guidepost for what kind of power they have. Right.
My real life class is barbarian paladin because I'm frankly not that clever. Like I'm not a good arguer. I'm persuasive. I feel like I can talk pretty well, but I'm also not afraid to throw down if I need to. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, if words don't work, fist.
I think I'm definitely like a charisma class that like wants to like because
I think you're a bard.
Is possible. I mean, my vicious mockery is cutting.
You are.
You got some cutting words over there.
You do have cutting words for sure.
I used to say I was a barbarian, but I'm not. But I think that's just the rageness of it. But I think like
speaking of villains, the finest compliment Seth has ever given me, and you've given me many compliments because you're such a sweetheart. But we were talking about what D&D monsters we were, and you said I was a beholder. It was like,
oh yeah. I have to say that. Okay, I got to tell this because we were at Gen Con and we were like driving around, and we were just like killing time, and I was like, "What D&D monster do you think you are? Not what do you want to be, but what do you think you are?" And I was like, "I think Shane's a beholder because there's one factoid about beholders that is really fun. Beholders are so smart, right? Their brains are so capable that they can create their reality with the power of their brain. Like the way beholders reproduce, and this is not to say that you're paranoid, but they get so paranoid about another beholder encroaching on their territory, they create another beholder with their brain.
I didn't know that.
And so that's how they reproduce.
It's awesome.
And so like I was like, Shane is a beholder.
They create the thing they don't want to see.
Right.
Yeah,
they create their own enemy, their
they
greatest
create
fear.
their own greatest fear, which is another being as smart as
they
them.
are, as
right?
dangerous
So
as
it's
they
like,
are.
oh, what a nightmare. But like specifically the like Shane's ability to like come up with a thing and then like create it in the form of like this show, in the form of like the style that we do, in the form of characters, in the form of all of the great moments. And so I was like, Shane's a beholder. Shane's for sure a beholder.
I don't know. Did we decide what yours was? I feel like you're a gold
dragon of some sort,
Yeah,
right?
I feel like you're one of the goodly dragons.
I think maybe we did say gold dragon. Kind of.
Because you're so very powerful, but also equally as benign, equally as benevolent. Yes,
and guilty of maybe a little prideful arrogance every now and again. Gold dragons,
but earned arrogance.
I think we might have decided I was a gold dragon. Did we land on you? Did we land on Rebecca?
Another dragon.
You were a dragon too, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're a black dragon.
No, you were a copper. She's a copper dragon. Yeah, copper dragon.
Yeah.
I think that was what we landed on. Because coppers are also brilliant, and coppers are
That's
very
right, guide. It's untrue.
also of all of the dragons, coppers are the most charismatic and persuasive. Like they're and they're also very fun. And they like
and they're also a great time.
They're
at a party.
fun.
What a
Yeah,
good
they're
hang.
fun. Yeah, good hang. Well, it's funny. Like in their little lore box or whatever, it's like coppers like collect bards. Like they like have like they like there people that they like. They really like.
Copper
And
dragons
then-
manage bands.
Yeah, and they're like, otherwise, get out of here. So I was like, I was like, I
that's
feel
pretty fitting.
I feel like that's pretty
If I
fitting.
like you, great. If I don't like you,
Yeah, like Rebecca will take a bullet for the people she loves and twice on Sunday. But if she doesn't like you, it's like, get out.
She's zero time.
Not afraid to be like, nope.
Yeah, does not.
I think we landed on Copper Dragon, but I feel like there's something that I'm missing that's like obvious smack in the face.
My knowledge of the beasts is actually fairly limited in terms of like the scope of them. Like I obviously know the big hitters, but I don't have. I always have to crack open my monster manual.
tell us
to
what you
actually
think,
get
audience.
into
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
What
let
do you
us
think
know
we all are?
in
That's
the
funny.
chat? I'm sure it's already being speculated. on in the
Guaranteed.
chat.
But
Yeah.
I'm pretty adamant that Shane's a beholder. You're free to disagree, but you're incorrect.
Disintegration rate.
Sleep ray, paralysis ray. I fucking love beholders.
They're great. What an iconic.
I just remember
monster.
the
Eye
beholder that we
tyrants.
fought that was like, it just made you like him.
Oh yeah, the
Like,
charming
the-
rate.
the-
Hardest RP I've ever done was when Kellett got charmed by the beholder.
I
in
think
the
he's
Underdark.
fine.
He was like, we're all friends here.
Oh yeah, you were like, maybe he's not that bad. As he's like fucking blasting everybody.
I was like, how do I play this? Like,
Amazing.
because like usually when you're charmed, right, you try to figure out like, okay, how would this character come to the conclusion that this person was their friend? But it's just like the most far-fetched thing with
Yeah.
the beholder, because it's like it just ate this kid's parents.
Right? It's like actively
it's
trying
like
to
actively killing
disintegrate
the
your
people
friend.
he loves. Yeah. So it's like,
Talk about a off-topic conversation.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
creating
Anyways,
villains,
good times,
monsters,
good
yay!
times.
Yes. Yeah. Create monsters, create compelling villains, start with why, work backwards.
yeah.
That's my
all that
ending
good stuff.
advice.
We've solved it.
Yep. Once again.
Done and dusted.
Well, this has been Mastering the Game. I'm Seth.
I'm Shane.
And we'll see you next time. Bye,
Bye, nerds.
You guys are so cute.
We've really nailed that out.